Welcome to Agenda Edina, a news program summarizing the actions taken at City Hall that affect you most. I'm your host, Dorothea Marty. We start this broadcast on a somber note. The first mayor of Edina, Jim Van Valkenburg, was laid to rest June 1st. For more than 50 years, he helped shape Edina into the thriving community it is today. Edina 16's Dietrich Nissen spent time with some of those closest to Jim Van Valkenburg and has more on what they see as his legacy.
There were two things Jim Van Valkenburg invested in: Edina and people.
He really cared about people. He cared about this community.
There's one word to describe Jim: a real sweetheart.
You just felt good having Jim around.
Betty Hemstead and Kay Bach worked with Van Valkenburg on Edina's centennial. The pair say he liked to tease them.
He would call me Betty and her Kay, and he would send us postcards from wherever, and it wouldn't necessarily be from where he had been.
He put the two postcards on the table, wrote half of it on one, and then continued across to the next one, and then mailed them. So we had to get together to read what the message was. Does that tell you something about Jim?
He was just a very unique, fun person, beyond being very, very smart.
In addition to being a lawyer, Van Valkenburg served for 20 years on the city council. The last 7 years as Edina's first mayor.
He was not for big government. He was not grandiose in his ideas, but he just wanted to have a well-run government doing right things, doing good public works.
It seems as though Jim was every place. I mean, if there was something taking place, Jim was involved.
He was a wonderful mentor for the mayors that are still living: Denny Metzold and Fred Richards, me. He wasn't a preachy person. He wasn't someone who was going to tell you how to do your job, but if you wanted a little bit of guidance from him based on all those years of experience that he had, he was willing to give it.
After his run as mayor, Van Valkenburg stayed active in the community. He was involved with Edina Rotary, the Edina Crime Prevention Fund, and the Edina Art Board. However, he played a crucial role in establishing the Edina Community Foundation, a group dedicated to strengthening the city as a premier place to live and work.
The first thing to be obvious about Jim when you were with him in a meeting is he deeply cared about the community and whether the organization was doing all it could to serve the community.
By the late 1980s, Jim's contributions earned him the honor of having this park just off Lincoln Drive named after him.
Jim would come to our holiday parties. He would always come to the employee Christmas parties and the like. And it was a standing joke, we always would ask him to come up and give a speech at the parties. And people in the audience would groan thinking, oh my God, what are you thinking of, asking the mayor to give a speech? Every year it was the same thing. He'd come up to the microphone and say, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and then go sit down.
He is truly going to be missed in this community. I'll miss him.
I would guess literally hundreds of people who've had a chance to work with him and be inspired by him and be in a position to directly observe his commitment to continued public service. That's the legacy that I think he'll leave behind.
In Edina, Dietrich Nissen, Edina 16.
If you'd like to contribute to a memorial, you're encouraged to send donations to the Van Valkenburg Fund for Children. The Edina Community Foundation uses the money to help children in need and their families, as well as assist with funding community support for youth who are financially challenged. Some funding also goes to send kids in need to summer camp. Fairview Southdale Hospital is gearing up for a major expansion. The hospital is located off of the Crosstown Highway at 6401 France Avenue. Earlier this month, the City Council approved a site plan for a 2-level, nearly 89,000 square foot addition on the north side of the hospital for a new emergency care and urgent care center.
This will be a wonderful addition to the community of Edina. It'll allow us to provide much more timely care, especially at those peak times, just given the sheer increase in capacity that we're going to have. But it will also benefit the residents of Edina in really designing something for the future.
The expansion provides additional rooms for us to see patients. It increases our capacity to bring in the most state-of-the-art equipment, and it will enable us to be more timely and patient-centered in how we provide care to the community.
Emergency services would be offered on the main floor. Observation units to accommodate patient stays of less than 24 hours would be built on the second floor of the addition. Offices would be in the basement of the addition. The existing emergency and urgent care facility would be remodeled for hospital use. The helipad, which sits where the addition would be located, would be moved. The hospital's existing central plant would be enlarged to accommodate the new space. Hospital officials hope to start construction this fall. And just down France Avenue, you will soon see construction of a new Byerly's. Lund Food Holdings received final approvals earlier this month to tear down the existing 59,000 square foot Byerly supermarket and build a new, slightly smaller grocery store in the northwest corner of the property at 7171 France Avenue. The existing store would remain open during construction. When the new store is finished, the existing store would be removed and 2 apartment buildings would be built. Each of the apartment buildings is planned to be 6 or 7 stories with underground parking. One of the buildings would have retail on the first floor. In a second phase of development, another 6-story, 60-unit apartment building would be constructed. It would contain 10,500 square feet of retail space on the first level and 2 levels of underground parking. Tied to the project is reconstruction of Hazelton Road near the store. The west entrance to Byerly's will be modified to right in, right out. The west entrance to the Rue de France shopping center will also be modified. A roundabout will be built for the east access to Byerly's and the Guitar Center. New sidewalk connections will be made from Hazelton to the Edina Promenade. A former president of India recently flew in for a historic visit to the Hindu temple in Edina. Dr. Abdul Kalam came to the United States to receive an award in California, but first made a special stop in Edina at the request of temple staff. Edina 16's Dietrich Nissen covered his visit and has more.
After living in India for most of her life, it took moving to Edina, Minnesota for Manju Nayar to finally meet one of India's former presidents.
I think it's an extremely memorable and honorable time or an event for us Indians here, especially for him coming right here in Edina, to our backyard literally.
She and a few dozen others stood quietly until Dr. Abdul Kalam's caravan pulled into the parking lot of the Sri Venkateshwara temple. Then, everyone began to celebrate.
He's such a respected and, one of the most respected people in India, and such a humble, down-to-earth individual. And I think for the children especially, it would be a really, really wonderful experience just meeting him, getting to get some questions answered by him. Just his mere presence here, I think it's a wonderful thing.
Although from poor beginnings, Kalam became a nuclear scientist and educator. Now in his 80s, he is one of the most revered leaders in modern Indian history, having served as India's 11th president from 2002 to 2007. Under Kalam's leadership, India is now one of the world leaders in space research.
Anything my heart desires will come to me. Will it come? Yes. Definitely? Yes. So friends, I will be delighted to address and also interact with the students.
I do feel honored to be able to be part of visiting with a delegation like this and to be part of the activities, and I really appreciate the folks at the temple thinking of including us. It tells me that they feel like they're part of this community, and they are.
Edina Mayor James Hovland presented Kalam with a book on the history of Edina and even offered him the city pin off his jacket.
It's just our good fortune that the temple is here, because otherwise he wouldn't be stopping in Edina.
During his speech, Kalam stressed the importance of studying and encouraged the children to believe in their abilities. So when it came time for him to go, Manju and many others say his visit was more than just historic.
It's something that, we would cherish for our lifetime, I think.
In Edina, Dietrich Nissen, Edina 16.
After speaking at the temple, Kalam met with other community leaders at a dinner held by the Indian Association of Minnesota. This marked the first time an Indian president visited Edina. Thanks for watching this episode of Agenda Edina. I'm your host, Dorothea Marty.